So lads, today the WNBA have officially announced their 5 MVP finalists. Did they do this last year? I don't think so. I don't think they announced their 5 MVP finalists. It's going to be announced on Sunday.
What happens when a player everyone decided to forget suddenly becomes impossible to ignore?
For years, the WNBA and its experts acted like Kelsey Mitchell didn't exist. She was just a scorer on a bad team, a footnote in conversations dominated by bigger names. But now she's an MVP finalist, and the entire league is being forced to confront a truth they've spent years denying. The announcement sent shockwaves through the league, not because the other names were surprising, but because Mitchell's was. A'ja Wilson, Alyssa Thomas, Napheesa Collier, these were the expected contenders. But Kelsey Mitchell, her inclusion felt like a glitch in the system, a direct challenge to the established order. For years, critics had her boxed in just a volume scorer whose points didn't matter because her team, the Indiana Fever, was irrelevant. They were wrong, and now they have to deal with it.
First team, but Kelsey Mitchell is one of the finalists. So the last 2 years, the Indiana Fever have had MVP finalists, and this is a team that since Tamika Catchings has had nobody. And prior to last year, Kelsey Mitchell was just a scorer on bad teams. Aaliyah Boston was a pretty good rookie, a real good rookie, in fact. But the finalists here.
To understand why this nomination is so shocking, you have to go back to the dark ages of the Indiana Fever. After the legendary Tamika Catchings retired, the franchise became a wasteland. They missed on draft picks, cycled through coaches, and faded into obscurity. Through all that losing, one player remained constant: Kelsey Mitchell. She was drafted 2nd overall in 2018 and immediately started filling up the stat sheet. But because the wins weren't there, the narrative was set. Her numbers were empty. She was a solo act, putting on a show in an empty theater, and the critics yawned. They called her one-dimensional, a black hole on offense, someone you couldn't build a winning team around. While she was quietly becoming one of the league's most lethal scorers, the world outside of Indiana simply refused to notice.
Kelsey, it was win or go home. You guys advanced, getting to the semis for the first time since 2015. Earlier today, you told me it's going to be about the gut check with this team. What did you see from that standpoint?
It got ugly, it got mucky. You knew Atlanta was going to be aggressive and make stuff ugly for us. And down the stretch of the game was about getting stops, and Lexi Hall got the stop. So it takes all of us. We all we got.
Then everything changed. First came A'ja Boston, a dominant force in the paint, who gave the Fever an identity they hadn't had in years. And then came the supernova Caitlin Clark, the most hyped prospect in a generation. Clark's arrival turned the once-forgotten Fever into the most-watched team in the league overnight. The assumption was that Mitchell would now have to take a back seat, that she would become a role player in the Clark and Boston show. That narrative wasn't just wrong, it was spectacularly wrong. The spotlight that was supposed to diminish her actually became her greatest weapon. Suddenly, the court was wide open. Defenses obsessed with stopping Clark's logo threes and Boston's interior dominance left Kelsey Mitchell with more space than she had ever seen in her career. And she made them pay for it night after night. Mitchell didn't just survive in the shadow of her superstar teammates, she thrived. The so-called Clark effect became her personal playground. Every time a defense tilted too far towards Clark, Mitchell would slash to the rim for an easy bucket. Every time they double-teamed Boston, she would get a wide-open look from 3. She turned the media's obsession with her teammates into a tactical advantage, exposing the lazy analysis of critics who predicted she would fade away. Instead of her game shrinking, it expanded. She was more efficient, more decisive, and more dangerous than ever before. This wasn't a player fading into the background. This was a player reminding everyone that she was the engine that had been keeping this team running all along. Let's be brutally honest for a moment. Kelsey Mitchell is not going to win the MVP award. Everyone knows it's A'ja Wilson's to lose. The politics of the WNBA all but guarantee it. But this nomination was never about winning the trophy. It's about forcing the world to acknowledge what they've been ignoring for years, her greatness. It's about respect. For too long, Mitchell has been left out of the conversation about the league's elite guards. Now her name is on a list with the top 5 players in the entire league, and there's nothing the doubters can do about it. This is her forcing her way to a table she should have been invited to years ago. It's a validation of the relentless work she put in during the seasons, when no one was watching, a testament to her loyalty to a franchise that was at the bottom of the barrel. The reaction from around the league has been pure chaos. Rival fan bases are furious their favorite players were snubbed. Critics are scrambling to rewrite their old takes, pretending they saw this coming all along. And in the middle of it all is Kelsey Mitchell, the player who is making people angry simply by being recognized. The same league that overlooked her for All-Star games and all WNBA teams is now forced to put her on the MVP finalist graphic. The irony is delicious. For years, the excuse was that her numbers didn't lead to wins. Now the Fever are a playoff team, and that excuse has vanished. The goalposts have been moved so many times for Mitchell that they're not even on the field anymore. This nomination also shatters the lazy narrative that Mitchell is just a gunner. It forces you to look at her journey, the years she spent refining her game when no one was paying attention. She didn't just show up and start scoring, she evolved. She tightened her shot selection, improved her efficiency, and became a more willing playmaker. She stayed loyal to the Fever through the worst of times, when many other players would have demanded a trade. That persistence, that grind, is what makes this moment so sweet for those who have followed her career. This isn't an overnight success story. It's the culmination of years of hard work and dedication. She endured the losses, the criticism, and the anonymity, all for the chance to be a part of the Fever's rise. Now look at the Indiana Fever. A team that was a laughingstock for the better part of a decade is now one of the most exciting young cores in the league. They have Aaliyah Boston, the dominant big Caitlin Clark, the generational talent, and now Kelsey Mitchell, the officially recognized MVP caliber guard. This is no longer a one-woman show. It's a three-headed monster. Mitchell's journey is the bridge between the franchise's painful past and its incredibly bright future. She was the one who held it all together when things were falling apart, and now she's a leader on a team that is ready to contend. Her story is a message to the rest of the WNBA. The Indiana Fever are back, and the player they all chose to forget is the one leading the charge. So the question is, what are they going to do now that they can't ignore her any longer?